Twitch is going to be selling games soon, but this story comes with a few ethical pitfalls. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. I did a story last week on the Amazon patent filing for the Twitch client, and it was met with positivity for the most part, but certainly did contain a bit of contention in the comments with people talking about the inconvenience of multiple clients, concern over how Amazon will implement their store, and such. I kind of feel bad because I was very positive in that video, and now that Twitch has started down the road, I'm gonna go tear it apart. With the recent announcement from Twitch, the positioning to make the client a reality looks like it is beginning, with an expansion of the feature set of the Twitch site itself, features that sound awfully familiar to those who have read the patent filing. To round up what is happening, Twitch is going to begin selling games directly through the twitch.tv website. The way this is going to happen is, under the video feed itself for streamers that you watch, will be a purchase link to be able to buy the game that they're playing. Twitch has established a partnership with developers like Ubisoft, Hi-Rez, Telltale, Double Fine, Devolver Digital, Paradox, and a bunch of other smaller groups in order to provide these direct sale links. The system also has an added bonus, because much like Twitch Prime, Amazon is all about giving added selling features. If you as the viewer buys a game, as long as the value is $4.99 US or higher, you'll earn a Twitch crate. The crate will be randomly generated and include things like game-specific emotes, chat badges, or an undetermined amount of bits, which are the digital streaming currency that you can use in order to tip streamers. And as much as I rail on about random loot boxes, these ones are really just added valueless value and pretty innocuous. Once you buy a game, you'll be able to either install and run it directly through the Twitch launcher, or if it's only available through a company's own client like Uplay, you'll use that client instead. Now, where all of this starts to get a little bit murky is in the optional aspect. The Twitch blog post states that partnered channels can opt in for a revenue share, which I'll go into in much more detail shortly. But it also specifies that the offer to buy a game or in-game content will appear on all streamer channels playing that game. It doesn't provide for an option for streamers to opt out of having the link show up underneath their video feed. Now, in and of itself, I'm not too worried about this piece. Twitch is a business and displays other ads, so placing a context-sensitive Buy Now button on a channel is par for the course. That button, if the promo video Twitch put out is to be believed as working as intended, includes a Purchases Support X channel mentioned alongside it. So I started this piece off by claiming that we have some ethical pitfalls, and while I do genuinely appreciate and like the idea of Twitch starting to build towards a feature-rich client of their own, the way that they're going about this is incentivized to encourage abuse. Partnered streamers will be able to opt into the program for what Twitch says is a default 5% cut of the revenue from people who purchase a game while watching their stream. This 5% is presently available worldwide, but only in US funds by way of an Amazon account for right now. Another ethics discussion. I know, people keep saying that they're tired of hearing about ethics, but really, it is kind of important. I've been making videos for a long time and only just started to step into consistent live streaming. In that time, I've become keenly aware of all the different ways that I could be making more money than I currently do, which is not a lot. I do some reviews, but also editorial content like this series and the news wrap-up, so I have to be very careful because a content creator is only valuable so long as their reputation has value. And while this is true in the world of live streaming, the bar for ethics appears to be quite a bit lower. Free-to-play sponsored streams, G2A sponsorships, and all manner of other avenues are open to me and many others in order to leverage an audience and get a cut while we're at it. And the only bit that I currently take part in is Patreon, where it's the viewers who support the channel and it keeps me away from the pocketbooks of companies that I review games of or do other content in relation to. Along with that constant reminder and awareness is that a content creator should be very careful about misleading their audience. And this is where the revenue share aspect of this whole thing takes a turn for the worse. Is it reasonable to say that a streamer may be influenced in the kind of content that they create or the positivity towards a product on sale during their stream that they financially benefit from? Obviously, I can't say for certain that every streamer will be so influenced, but I think it's safe to say that many will be. All you need to do is take a look at how many streamers still have a big G2A logo plastered all over their page to know that ethics aren't top of the mind. For those unaware, G2A is a third-party key market where users can sell game keys online and with very little in the way of verification to ensure that the keys are not being put up that were gotten through illegitimate means. How many streamers will choose to stream a game not because it's a game they want to play, but rather because it has a $sign attached? I've seen the argument that this is not a lot of money, and I suppose for some smaller partnered streamers that may be true. But if a Ubisoft game is part of the program on launch or other major title, you're going to see numerous launch week buy from me drives where streamers encourage their audience, who may have been intending to buy the game anyways, to buy from their stream link. Not really a problem for those who were buying anyways, but it will instill a false sense of popularity as the big streamers drive games to the top of the list because of the revenue share potential of getting 5% of a few hundred or a few thousand purchases, in addition to the usual ad revenue and subscriptions. And there are some unknowns about the new system as well. Twitch said that the default revenue share is 5%, so can one of these partner developers set a revenue share higher than 5%? It's obvious from the get-go that many streamers will at least be somewhat predisposed towards playing games that are part of the program over those that aren't. So if a developer decides to go with a 10% number instead, this increases the likelihood that the game will be streamed in even greater numbers. Again, a false sense of popularity made even worse if Twitch doesn't publicly disclose during purchase what the revenue share is. In fact, if this disclosure is not made, that puts Twitch and the streamer in contravention of the FTC guidelines on sponsorship. They do list, according to their video, that beside the buy button will be a message stating that the purchase supports the streamer, but if we're dealing in pure popularity numbers, a game with a higher revenue share could be seen as misleading. And since 5% is only a default, indicating that it can be changed, on what basis can it be changed? Is it a site-wide change, or can it be changed on a per-streamer basis? This item is conjecture on my part, but from a business standpoint, it certainly would make sense as a way to incentivize direct benefit and involvement from Twitch in the sponsorship side of streaming, an element that they don't currently have a stake in. If you get a sponsorship to stream a game, Twitch doesn't get a cut unless they set up the sponsorship. But if Company X decides they want Twitch to promote their game, they could in theory reach out to Twitch and offer a higher revenue share to specific streamers, as a way for Twitch to get in on the revenue. Again, just conjecture on this point specifically, but it certainly makes sense from the corporate side. The issue with disclosure and sponsorship is that the opinions expressed are to be very clearly marked in order to ensure that the viewer or customer knows that money is changing hands for the content creator from the producer of the game they're playing. It's not only plausible, but likely that more positive coverage of games involved in the program will result, as streamers consciously or otherwise are more positive on their stream, knowing that the more people who buy the game, the more revenue they make. And if the Twitch popular games list is now obfuscated by higher numbers due to streamers pandering for that 5%, what are the ethical and even disclosure issues for that? A potential customer doesn't even have to buy something to be misled in what is going on. Now, around this point, inevitably someone will say that streamers are not doing reviews, so it doesn't matter. This is foolish, semantic nonsense. Any person streaming a game on Twitch is in a position of influence over the people watching their stream. Just like celebrities tweeting out undisclosed product endorsements, which has resulted in more than a few hand slaps recently. The entire point of the FTC rules on disclosure is to prevent that position of influence from misleading end consumers. And if you're being paid by the company making the product you're playing, it is not just possible but likely that your coverage will be different than it would have otherwise been as a result of that connection. Next up is the contention that watching a stream is enough to form your own opinion and that the streamer's opinion of the game doesn't matter, even if it's falsely positive. I just can't see how this is true, quite frankly. I've watched a lot of streamers, I've played a lot of games. There is no good comparison to be made between watching someone play and actually playing a game yourself. Someone showing the responsive control scheme is hardly an item conveyed over the stream. Someone talking about how good the game looks or sounds on a compressed video signal is not indicative of the end user experience. Not to mention how simple a task it would be to be more positive than you otherwise would be, actively avoiding mentioning parts of the game that are frustrating or critique that happens even from the most already positive streamer under the current system. People are watching because of the person, not the game, and if the person who they're watching and trust says it's good, they're more likely to buy it. Simple as that. From even a less critique-driven standpoint, if you know you're making more money because of a particular system, to be perfectly frank, it's a lot easier to be positive on stream. The reason is precisely the same as how it's easier to be positive on stream when you know you have viewers watching. It's a marker for success, and the human brain derives its mood in large part from that feeling of success. And since we're so good at figuring out that false popularity, did you know that For Honor was the top 3 on Twitch for a good chunk of its launch week because of Ubisoft sponsorships? Just a question. I want to support great streamers too. My worry is that this introduces an ethical and disclosure problem into the mix of streaming. And yeah, live streaming is kind of a wild west where it comes to these sorts of things, with all kinds of shady nonsense out there. It's important that streamers, even though they're entertainers, are as upfront and honest about financial relationships they have, and I'm not entirely convinced that a little line saying a purchase supports a streamer is enough. It seems to me that at the very least, Twitch should implement a new feature that automatically, in this case, but also optionally for other sponsorships, will flag a stream as a sponsored stream. More disclosure is never a bad thing. What do you think about the idea of streamers getting paid a revenue share for streaming certain games? Is Twitch doing enough to keep the ethics of this above board? Let's chat about it in the comments. Feature Creep is a regular show on the channel, with only this silly little self-plug about how I don't run YouTube ads because of the generosity of Patreon backers that you've probably heard before. I would also like to extend an apology on my recent news wrap-up for the tirade against the Switch. I made 2 factual errors in the video. One on the Switch not being able to carry the Zelda install to its internal storage, which was a mix-up I made between Zelda and Dragon Quest Heroes. Second was the third-party Wi-Fi authentication, where I simply didn't see the story about the applet Nintendo will be putting out as a day one patch to address that issue. Please accept my apologies. Even gnomes are human from time to time, it would seem. Thanks for watching. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.